Hey everyone, I'm Lily, and today I'm doing a magic video. What a surprise! Because I still want to do them occasionally, it's just I'm not going to be doing as many. And yeah, so I wrote this video before the latest state of the beta, which wasn't great. Honestly, it's one of the first, not state of the betas, but like state of the games, like development diaries essentially, that I wasn't super happy about the thought of the stuff they said, mostly for the big reason that everyone's complaining about the fact that, hey, we got 50% player engagement with drop from the last time Brawl happened with Brawl Days. That sounds like it was doing a good job, and we're gonna keep doing that as a way to play Brawl. Which sucks, and I'm not going to go into that, but essentially the thing is that they offered it for essentially, hey, you want to play Brawl all the time? Here, pay up 10,000 gold every month if you want to do that. Which is dumb, but yeah, and for at the end of the day, I don't really care because I mostly play with my friends on Discord and stuff because I prefer historic Brawl anyway. And yeah, and not getting into that. Just don't do it. Just find one of the many, Discords or sites that run Brawl games if you really want to play Brawl all the time. Yeah. So, apart from the pricing issue of that, one thing that I added with the Brawl Days, and now this one, is that they added a new commander to Brawl. For them, so it's brand new commander for Arena and to Brawl that that is legal in Brawl and Arena, and you can play around with and stuff like that. The first thing was Reese the Redeemed, and this time around it's going to be Talrand, which is the fish dude who makes drakes when you cast instant sorceries. Merfolk, that's the name of the fish dudes. I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so so they've been adding this thing, which actually is kind of neat. I'm all for, just add more older cards onto Arena, get Arena closer to that full Magic experience as possible, especially for things like Direct Challenge. I wanted to, get it as close to, essentially, Arena Commander and not away from kind of this historic Brawl, which is this weird, it's Brawl but extended and more close into the realm of the format I love best, which is Commander. And sure, they won't really get there until they have actual multiplayer, which they've said it's on the roadmap in the past but wasn't on the roadmap this time. But there was also a lot of other things that wasn't on the roadmap this time. They didn't really do a full roadmap. It was more a check-in to be like, oh yes, this is what we're working on immediately, and some new things we got added. So I'm not seeing the fact that multiplayer wasn't on this one as being oh yes, they've scrapped it, and more just it was always a long-term thing, and there's no need to revisit it. If it's a long-term thing, it's still kind of long-term. But that's getting off topic. But back to the adding new commanders, and that's kind of the point of this video. And I went through and kind of thought and what would be the commanders that I would want most added to Arena through this Brawl thing or through historic anthologies, or really just to be able to be used. The format I care more about is historic Brawl, but I was also thinking about just normal Brawl as well. Just because historic Brawl is a blast, and just side note, if you haven't played historic Brawl with people, absolutely do, because it's actually a lot of fun. And playing with all the Dominaria toys and the historic anthology stuff, so you actually can have some pretty good commander powerhouses like Phyrexian Arena and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. But yeah, and I kind of narrowed it down to a list of 10 commanders I'd really like to see on there. And let's just jump right into it. But coming at number 10 for me is kind of a cop-out, but it is Morophon the Boundless. And really, I kind of wanted on Arena for the same reason that Morophon was created. Morophon is a 7-mana 6/6 changeling, and when enters battlefield you choose a creature type, and spells of that type cost 1 work less to cast, and Morphon's a nice just anthem for those creatures. I think, like, the reason it was created is kind of just like a catch-all, like, oh, does this tribe need a tribal commander? Well, it can use Morphon, and just kind of filling that niche on Arena. And I will say that it is absolutely would not be competitive in any stretch of the imagination. Like, generally, tribal isn't fantastic, like, on Arena right now, apart from, like, merfolk, kind of goblins, and if you have a god draw on elves. But generally, tribal isn't really there, but just kind of having this be a stand-in for people who want to make weird tribal decks and whatnot, it's just kind of like a way that they can do that. It's just kind of one of theirs. So it's kind of a boring pick, but just kind of having this like fallback thing where it's not just like, oh yes, I guess I'm just gonna play Golos, I guess, because it's the best kind of 5-color commander currently on Arena. So another one close here was also Sisay for kind of the generic Legends tribal, but I didn't include her because we already have a pretty good Legends commander too, actually, in the form of original Sisay and Kethis. So I went instead kind of like, it's just a generic commander. He's not exciting, but it's just kind of this piece to help be that catch-all for people wanting to play with jank. And that's another thing that's about direct challenges you don't get in actual queues, is be able to like talk to the person being like, hey, so what are we playing? Are like we playing like highly tuned like Sultai control like mirror, or are we just gonna be playing with like our dumb mono green deck and just doing weird stompy stuff, or like here is my Planeswalker deck to fairy deck I put together. It's gonna be great, and by great I mean not. Right. But coming in number 9 for me was actually a Planeswalker, because we can choose these because this is technically Brawl. And that is Duretti Ingenious Iconoclast, which is 1 black and red for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. With +1, makes a 1/1 construct with Defender, who's an artifact token. -1, which you sack an artifact, and if you do, you get to destroy an artifact or creature. And 6, choose target artifact in a graveyard or a graveyard on the battlefield. Put 3 tokens that are copies of it onto the battlefield. Overall, not too powerful. Like, it is a 3-mana walker that does come down with 4 loyalty and makes defenders, but overall pretty fair. But it adds this neat angle to artifact decks that we don't really see right now. Like, in terms of artifact commanders, really in Brawl, there's not really that much options besides Alela. In Historic Brawl, going back, you have Joira, and Sai, who are both decent, and like Tezzeret, M19 Tezzeret, and I guess M20 War of the Spark Tezzeret too. But all those are blue decks, and this is a kind of like neat like non-blue artifacts, kind of not quite like the mono red artifact. I did consider original Duretti, who is the mono red like Planeswalker deck one, not Planeswalker deck but Commander deck one. That is like the artifact reanimation stuff. And I thought the 2-color was a bit better, just because mono red just isn't in a good spot. There aren't really the payoffs for being monocolor on Arena right now, and black having access to removal and stuff is super important, because in 1v1 you have to be very reactive to what your opponent's doing. You cannot just let them run away. And being Rakdos is still not fantastic, because you still can't deal with like artifacts and stuff, or not artifacts, enchantments and whatnot, but it gives it a bit more staying power. And kind of like this weird, like, it also works with a lot of like sacrifice pieces and things like that, but also giving it kind of that artifact angle, which I really like. And yeah, I think he could be cool. Also, he's a nice goblin friend. Speaking of Planeswalkers, I put on Aminatou, the Fate Shifter, and I actually put a fair few of actually the C18 Planeswalker deck commanders on here, because they're already built to be kind of with like the command zone in mind, so none of them are particularly super powerful on their own, but they have a very interesting thing to do. And I like Aminatou because her +1 is, well, A, she's adorable, and kind of terrifying, but she's awesome. The +1, draw a card and then put a card from your hand on top of your library. -1 is you flicker something you own and then return to the battlefield. And our -6 is essentially everyone like switches something around, and it's not super relevant in 1v1. But mostly the thing is, okay, she has card selection and can flicker stuff. And both is just kind of like a general like Esper value commander, which is something we don't really have. Like your options are Alayla, which is very specific in what she wants to do, and Chromium, who's just there. But just kind of like has this neat like flicker theme, as well as this card selection. There's not too much you can do with your top deck manipulation right now on Arena, but yeah. And she also, Planeswalkers are just very powerful in Arena, just because you need to be proactive, and if you're playing against another good deck, the thing is that like if you have to wait a full turn cycle for a commander to do anything, like so many creatures do, they're not great, and it is a huge disadvantage that commander has. You need to getting value when it hits the battlefield, and Planeswalkers kind of get around that. And Amatu is one of those ones that's like, yeah, it gets value, but it isn't like an insane amount of value. It's just like, hey, this is some nice incremental advantage that will help you, but not necessarily steal games until you're like flickering things that are like actually like very powerful and things like that. And when you're in the late game, and that's kind of where you want to be, where it's Planeswalkers, you got to be really careful, because if you just say with some of the more powerful ones, especially in 1v1, they can really become punishing, because like, I mean, I'm a proponent for Planeswalkers as Commander in Commander, but at least in Commander you have multiple people to be able to take care of them, and it can be kind of hard to deal with in 1v1 if you're not equipped to, especially if they're being recast and recast and recast. But Amatu is not backbreaking. Like, she doesn't really protect herself or anything like that. For number 7, we have Anafenza the Foremost. And you might notice that, like, Lily, a lot of these are 3 colors. And I'm like, yes, because we need more options on the 3-color front. Just especially in Brawl, it's just having more variety in the 3-color front is super important. Especially with, like, a lot of because we're not getting them printed very much, because, like, we got some 3 colors, like, all the 3 colors from Eldraine were the Brawl decks, and those aren't a regular thing. And Theros, we're not getting any 3-color commanders, and so we need to have some space in there. And even in Historic Brawl, there is 1 Abzan commander, and that's Kethis, who is a very specific thing. But Anafenza is a 3-mana 4/4 that whenever she attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on another trapped creature you control, and if a creature card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you exile instead. So she's graveyard hate as well, but that's not super relevant. I mean, it's actually not bad against like sacrifice decks with like cat combo and whatnot, but she's an absent counters deck, and we actually have some cool counters cards, but not really any good counters commanders on, and not really in these colors either. So I just think it's like and it would be nice to have something, any other Abzan legend, because we just don't have one right now, and also kind of fills that niche of like a nice counters commander that we don't really see. And she is aggressively fair in terms of her abilities, but does make up for that by being Abzan, and Abzan is probably one of the more powerful color combos, and with the access of toys it has in Brawl right now and Historic Brawl. And staying on Tarkir, we have Alicia, who smiles at death. Very similar. Mardu has a lot of the same problems as Abzan, in that both of the commanders that are Mardu on Brawl or in Arena right now are very specific in what they want to do. You have Kalia, who just wants to be this demons, dragons, and angels thing, and you have Sir Gwyn, who wants to be knights and equipment. And Alicia, while still kind of specific in what she wants to do, she wants the small thing Reanimator, still is kind of like, hey, it's actually this angle that is a lot more open-ended. So, Alicia, if you don't know, is a 3-mana 3/2 first strike who, whenever she attacks, you may pay Orzhov, and then you get to reanimate something with small amount of power. So she's this kind of cool, like, Mardu reanimator, and is actually a fantastic, one of the better, like, budget, like, aggro decks, like, in Commander, and it could be really neat, and to see on Arena and see what to do with, like, the Arena's cast of toys to be playing with. Unfortunately, she's not green, so she can't reanimate the new Pelucranos, who would come in as a 6/6, but technically has 0 power on board in the graveyard. Car just drove by, but I'm not gonna stop. Because I'm professional. But yeah, so it's just one of those, like, it's a more generalized Mardu. I mean, Mardu does suffer from the problem of there aren't many Mardu commanders. Like, there's a very small number, like, actual selection when it comes to Mardu, and a lot of them are kind of specific or just bad. There's not really good Mardu value commander, and that's kind of what I'd like for, like, all the color combinations need to have at least, like, one just good generic, like, if you have a good stuff commander for those color combinations in case you want to do that. And a lot of the 3 color combinations on Arena for Historic Brawl just don't have that. Number 5 I'd like to see would be Saheeli the Gifted, which, like I said, like I was talking about the artifact stuff before, and a lot of the artifact stuff we have, like, in terms of, like, is it kind of like the kind of color of artifacts, but we don't actually have a good is it artifacts commander. Like, we have Joyra, but Joyra's really much more about kind of this just cycling your, like, cheap stuff, and it isn't really kind of like a, okay, let's do some cool artifact synergy stuff. She's just like, I want to barf a bunch of artifacts on the battlefield. And Saheeli's not like that, but she's a 4-mana 4, Planeswalker. Her +1 makes a 1/1, very similar to Dreddy, except it doesn't have Defender. Her other +1 makes things cheaper for each artifact, and her -7 makes copies of artifacts and whatnot, and things like that. Yeah, she's another one of those ones where it's like, she's very similar to, like, Dreddy and Tezzeret, but just being, like, a different color combination on the artifacts scheme of things, and just kind of giving a new direction on that. I mean, I guess there's also, like, uncommon Saheeli, but that's not good. Let's be honest, that's just a similar thing to kind of Joyra, where it's like, I just want to cast a bunch of small stuff and make 1/1s, and this one is actually kind of like, okay, here's actually some amount of synergy, although at the end of the day there is a bit of, I just want to get a lot of stuff on the battlefield still with her. But it's mostly just kind of giving up, like, opening up just this new avenue to make, like, artifacts actually a bit more competitive edge, especially if we do, and if something like Kaladesh or something does get added sometime in the future, because even Kaladesh, like, original Saheeli is fine, but still isn't a great artifacts commander. Tuvasa the Sunlit, and Tuvasa the Sunlit is Bant for a 1/1 that gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control, and whenever you cast your first enchantment spell each turn, draw a card. This one I include because of Theros Beyond Death, and because Theros Beyond Death has a fantastic number of Simic Enchantress stuff, Celestia Enchantress stuff, Azorius Enchantress stuff, but there's no Bant Azorius or Enchantress commander. So let's just bring in Tuvasa. Like, it just, like, kind of like, let it do kind of like a lot of this cool enchantment stuff that we're getting of Theros Beyond Death without having to, like, force it into, like, a Tulane shell. And Tuvasa is very good. She has, like, a neat thing where it's just, like, very generically good of enchantments with the, whenever you cast an enchantment spell each turn, draw a card. It's just kind of like, yeah, that's neat. And it does a decent job at doing that. The reason she's not higher is just because the main problem of, like, she doesn't do a lot the turn she comes down. She has a lot of the same problems as a Layla, who is a very similar thing, and Layla is honestly, like, even though you lose access to green, is probably better, because just, she at least is not like, I mean, the card draw is nice, but it's, Layla, having access to black is huge, and all this other stuff, and they have the same disadvantage of, oh, they both don't do anything when they come down, and Layla at least has a much more relevant body, with, like, flying and death touch, and yeah, but it would be nice to have some banned option for Enchantress. Alright, next would be SRAM, Senior Edificer. It's a 2-mana 2/2 that whenever you cast a Aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. It's no secret that white is awful in Commander and Brawl. I mean, monocolor is not great in Brawl either. Like, the one exception is being like, oh, if you're actually just going, like, a decent Gruul, or not Gruul, but green Stompy deck, or, like, Torbrand aggro, like hyper aggro. And you know what? White needs a good monocolor deck, and really, there's only one good white monocolor commander, and that's SRAM. But SRAM is fantastic. He's just, it's a great card draw engine. He's cheap, you can keep replaying him, and but also just like this very specific theme of kind of like, oh, we don't really actually have that many good, like I mean, we have, for equipment matters, like we have Sir Gwyn, but she's kind of has this like night angle and stuff like that, and we don't really have a good vehicle commander yet, because we don't have like a Dapala or anything, and it just kind of fits neat, like, okay, let's actually like spit a bunch of like equipment and stuff and kind of win that way with this cool like white thing, and giving white access to like a good commander is just something I would love to see. But I was gonna say something else, but also like from the sense of like he does benefit from the Enchantress stuff, like some of the stuff in Theros Death, although not so much of that is like white. There's like the Pegasus stuff and things like that, but yeah. No, just giving mono white a toy. Okay, this one looks like a joke, but I am absolutely serious. I know he's silver border, but in all seriousness, Ursa Academy Headmaster. It is perfectly something completely allowed. Like, it is perfectly rootable by the engine. It is just a d20 roll to determine which ability he uses on each one. But, yeah. For those of you not familiar, he is a 4-ability Planeswalker that costs Wooburg. And you go to a website, you go to askursa.com, and you have to press which loyalty ability, and it'll give you one of 20 randomized abilities. At the end of the day, he's not fantastic. Like, he has some strong abilities, but not being able to choose it isn't great. So that's not fun. But it's just one of those things where it's like, Brawl is supposed to be kind of this fun format, and he is just like this hilarious commander, which can lead to some really just neat stuff. Granted, in 1v1, you don't have the political advantage of Ursa in multiplayer that you normally get, because in multiplayer, no one likes to attack Ursa because they want to see what Ursa will do next. But Ursa's still really cool, and it'd be really neat to be like them to say like, hey, we're willing to like experiment, even if temporarily, being like, hey, this silver border card is legal. Like, Commander had it for when Unstable came out. They were like, had a month of like, you know what, silver border is allowed with this limited ban list, and just seeing kind of like, hey, we're willing to put some silver border cards on Arena, even if it is for like non-competitive formats. Just because like, the thing is like, all of his abilities themselves are black border abilities. It's just they have some through things, so it's not really a breaking the game sort of thing where it is very much a, hey, these abilities are things that the engine can absolutely handle. And it would just be fun to see this kind of thing. As always, turfs can go far, far away and not talk to me or be around this channel, because you're not welcome here. Just saying. And finally, number 1, we have Estrid the Masked. And you might be asking, like, Lily, you already had a banned enchantment commander in here in the form of Tuvasa. Also, Lily, wow, you really took from C18. Yes, imaginary person, I did take a lot from C18, because, I don't know, people were generally disappointed with C18 just because it just didn't have a lot of people named, but I think actually C18 is, like, perfect for, like, the power level of Arena right now, and had some really cool stuff. But as to the second Enchantress commander on here, it's because we just got an enchantment set, and no good unifying commanders to really work with those enchantments. So here's the second one, and I have Estrid over Tuvasa for a few reasons. One, she is much more specific. She wants auras, which is it's a lot more specific to what she wants to do, so she's a lot more focused. And has just a lot of just neat things. Her +2 untaps all enchant permanents you control, which gives a lot of things like benefit to things like Gift of Paradise and New Horizons and what's that other one? The Guild of Ravnica. It's the one that doesn't actually make it tap for more, just for anything, but you draw a card when it enters the battlefield. I don't remember its name. And all these other just like weird enchant auras and stuff they don't really see, and kind of like makes them relevant. The fact that she's also a Planeswalker, so she actually gets value on the turn that when she comes down, so it'll actually be somewhat relevant. Totem Armor's cool, and she gives that, and yeah, no, it's really cool, and I think she's just really neat, like aspect of that, and is kind of the commander I would want to see the most to play with a lot of Theros Beyond Death cards, just because there is kind of like, on top of the Enchantress theme, there was that added theme of specifically auras and Selesnya. And Selesnya, as we all know, is Besnia. But yeah, no. And but I just like to see Estrid. Because, I mean, I know I put 2 Bant ones, and I talked about a lot about why I want a Bant Enchantress commander, but I would like Estrid over Tuvasa, even though Tuvasa is a bit more general. I just feel like in a 1v1 format, Estrid is just slightly better, or alternatively, both, and just, I don't know, put things on there. Hey, Wizards, how about you just, like, I don't know, start just putting wholesale commander sets on there? Like, I understand maybe not put all the reprints on, just put all the Commander Matter cards. Maybe not the multiplayer ones, but I don't know. Maybe start adding supplemental sets too? I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot more important things that need to go on, like getting more of an established, like, Pioneer card pool and whatnot. But yeah. Well, that's it for my top 10 of like 10 commanders I'd like to see. Like, a lot of them are kind of less about the commanders being like, wait, let's fill some holes in the colors that we need right now, and see what that's going on there. And that was kind of my first priority, because it's like the 2 they've added, both Reese and Talrand, they don't really fill a niche that isn't already kind of covered within the thing. Like, Talrand is obviously more powerful. Honestly, Reese is honestly worse than Armora, in my opinion, for Brawl and Historic Brawl. And it'd be nice to just see a bit more ones that are actually like, we are making a statement, like, commander here, where it's like, this is something cool that we're adding that will be meta, instead of these things where it's like, oh cool, it's a new commander that isn't gonna be relevant in any substantial way. Because that's part of the reality of Brawl right now, and Historic Brawl, is that the 1v1 nature does mean that there is a much more, especially when you want queues and stuff, there is much more of a power level you need to aim for, and you just can't you make the deck building as much about self-expression as you can in multiplayer formats, because it doesn't have that self-balancing nature. But I mean, I'm not going to complain about them adding new commanders for when we do get that, being able to do that. And if you're on a good Discord, be able to like communicate, being like, hey, we are playing at a lower power level, it is great for that too. But I would like to just see them be a bit more adventurous in the things that they're adding. But yeah, no. What do you think? Are there any like commanders that you'd like to see like on here? Like, part of me like is like tried to stay. I like was like, okay, let's film the 3 color ones. I mean, I tried to stay away from like the really like cheeky ones where it's like I want them to add all the partners and stuff like that, which I would love. I would love to add all the partners. I just add so many combinations, even though those would become some of the most powerful commanders on the thing. Because I mean, that is one problem about the Brawl right now, is that the colors of the commander are almost more important than anything else on the commander's rule stacks, just because some colors are just not great, just because they're not responsive enough, or don't have the right answers, or don't have the good finishers for the game. And yeah, so it's like things like partners and stuff would be too much, and like all the 4 color ones are just way too powerful for what we're looking to do. Okay, Canary Centero would be fine, but Canary Centero also aren't good, because you're not really like comboing off in Brawl right now, like you want to in group hug decks. But yeah, that's about all I have to say for that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't worry, I'm still making some magic content. I'm not completely divorced from the game. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful night with wonderful dreams. And as always, may your story smile upon you.